is 373, week 7, part 3. So I just kind of want to I want to continue the scene where Coriolanus is fighting with the where Coriolanus is fighting with the other senators about the role, about what democracy is. And I mentioned that writers, writing is a form of thinking, and that if Macbeth was Shakespeare thinking about masculinity and femininity and what they are, and he comes to some conclusions that they're fundamentally their performances. If masculinity and femininity, if writing is a form of thinking, then this is Shakespeare thinking about democracy. And just like I feel two ways about democracy, right? I feel like, man, democracy is the only, we got to listen to people and do what they want, but also they want stupid things. And I would think about that in my head like a debate, like, oh, there's advantages and disadvantages. In Shakespeare, it gets put into the mouths of characters. I should open the windows here and get a little extra light. I don't know why. I don't know. I grabbed these down from last night. Okay. Get some light in here. This would be better for videos. It's much better. So they ask Coriolanus, like, why should the people vote for you? And he says, I'll give my reason worthier than their voices, meaning my reasons are better than their reasons. They know the corn was not our recompense, resting well assured that they ne'er did service. Because they're getting they're getting food for no reason. They should have to go to war to get it. Being pressed into the war, even when the navel of the state would touch, they would not thread the gates. Meaning, even when the war was going badly, they still wouldn't fight. Being a kind of service, this kind of service did not deserve corn gratis. I mean, we shouldn't give them free food because when they refused to be in the wars in the military. Being in the war, their mutinies and revolts, wherein they showed most valor, spoke not for them. Meaning, the bravest thing they ever did was refuse to listen to their commanding officers. The accusation, which they have often made against the Senate, all cause unborn, could never be the native of our so frank donation. Well, what then? How shall this bosom multiplied digest the Senate's courtesy? It's a bosom multiplied because there's so many of them. Let deeds express what's like to be their words. We did request it. We are the greater poll, and in true fear they gave in to our demands. Thus we debase the nature of our seats and make the rabble call our cares fears, which will in time break open the locks of Senate and bring in crows to peck the eagles. This last section here is pretty important. What he's worried about is he thinks the crowd should get food in return for service. Like for Coriolanus, they should join the military, and then they'll feed them. He says that, but these people, they never want to be fighters, and when they are fighters, they run away. The bravest thing they do is oppose their commanding officers and run away. It's brave because they know they're going to get in trouble if they do it, but they do it anyway because they don't want to be in war. And his concern is that they're going to say to themselves, if you give them food for free, they're going to say. They know that if you give them food for free, they know they don't deserve it. And so they're going to figure out the reason they're getting it is because there's more poor people than rich people, and that the rich people are scared of them. And once they figure that out, they're going to overthrow the government. And if you've seen Bug's Life, this is exactly what happens in Bug's Life. It's a fight over food. Actually, there's a good paper. Hey, I would love to read a paper on Bug's Life and Coriolanus. I love that movie. It's cute. But in Bug's Life, right, the grasshoppers make the ants do all this work to get food for them, and the big thing at the end of the movie is they're so scared because the grasshoppers are so dangerous. I think they're grasshoppers. The grasshoppers are so dangerous, or locusts, sort of. Anyway, the bigger bugs are so scary that the little bugs are scared of them because, of course, one of the big bugs is so much bigger than one of the little bugs. But at the end of the movie, the little bugs realize, hey, wait a minute. Actually, you should be scared of us because even though we're little, there are lots of us. This is the classic problem between the rich and the poor, is that the rich are so powerful, but there are so few of them. That's why democracy threatens to unstable the system, because democracy says everybody gets one vote. And for Coriolanus and the other upper class people, they're like, well, wait a minute. If everybody gets one vote, there's more of them than there are of us. They're going to take over. By the way, why don't poor people take over then? Seems like an obvious thing, right? If the rich people have so much money and the poor people don't have enough money in America, why don't the poor people all just get together and vote to have the rich people get the money? There's a couple of simple reasons for that. Number one is poor people don't think they're poor. Someone very famous, I can't remember who right now, John Updike? Somebody very famous said that poor people don't think they're poor. They think they're temporarily embarrassed rich people, or they're future rich people. So poor people tend to want rich people to have all the power and control because they think they're going to be rich any minute now. And that's a trick that rich people use to get poor people to support rich people. The other reason why it stays the way it is, even though in a democracy you'd think if there's more poor people than rich people and everybody gets one vote, then you should be able to. And there's all kinds of other reasons, including gerrymandering, and I'm not doing that whole thing. But somebody made a really good analogy explaining wealth inequality in America, and they said, imagine you're at a table and there's 12 cookies and there's three people. There's a rich person and there's a poor white person and there's a poor black person. And what the rich person does is there's 12 cookies on the table. The rich person takes 11 cookies. And then he says to the white guy, hey, look out, that black guy's trying to take your cookie. Right? Like what happens in America is we get poor white people to fight with poor black people, but actually poor white people and poor black people need to team up and fight the rich people. Anyway, I just think that's a really good example that kind of summarizes a lot of how sort of wealth inequality in America works. It's like a cute little I find that some of the videos with the numbers are a little confusing, but that example with this Look, I'm not a math guy, so I don't understand things in terms of numbers. I tend to understand things in terms of stories, and that story about the 12 cookies kind of does a lot to explain to me what's going on. All right, cool. Actually, another way of looking at it, give me another little quick quote, is your one paycheck. Like a lot of Americans are one or two paychecks away. Like if they lose one or two paychecks, they're homeless. But you're not one or two paychecks away from being rich. And that should tell you where you are in the economic ladder, right? Like it's so much easier for something to happen and you become homeless than it is for something to happen and you become rich. And that's why, anyway, yeah. I could do this all day. Am I going to do one more example? Yeah, so like people are like, some people have said, let's raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. It really should be higher than that, $20, $25 an hour. But whenever somebody wants to raise the minimum wage, like other people, like regular everyday people are like, oh, that's totally unfair. You mean at my job, I get $20 an hour and I work really hard. And now you're going to give some burger flipper $10? Like, that's an example of the way rich people get poor people to get mad at other poor people. So instead of being like, I can't believe, if you make $20 an hour and you have, say, a job in an office and you're upset because the minimum wage means the guy at McDonald's gets $15 an hour and you're like, that's too much. That's almost what I make. Instead of being mad at the guy getting $15 an hour, you need to be mad at the guy making hundreds of dollars every second. The bosses, the 1%. Okay, cool. All right, let's keep going with this. This is an interesting play. And then there's a really important metaphor here at the end of this. Right, so he says if we give people food for free, they're going to realize we are the greater pole, meaning we're the greater numbers. And in true fear, they gave us into our demands. They gave us free. There are more of us, and they're scared of us. Thus do we debase the nature of our seats, meaning the Senate seats, and make the rabble call our cares fears, which in time will break open the locks of Senate and bring in crows to peck the eagles. That's an image almost exactly out of Bug's Life, and it's a real easy to understand one. It's that the crows are like the low-down dirty birds that are the regular everyday people, and the eagles are the important noble people. Obviously, in a fight between a crow and an eagle, the eagle's going to win. But there are so many more crows than people that if the crows team up, they'll destroy the eagles. To pull this back to The Incredibles, it's a very similar kind of thing. Coriolanus is worried about the crows in huge numbers being able to suppress the individually more powerful eagles, and in Incredibles, it's the huge numbers of normal people are keeping the Incredibles, making the Incredibles feel bad about their powers and making them stay hidden to make them feel better. The Incredibles are like the eagles, and the non-powered people are like crows, but there's more of the regular people, and so they make them feel guilty, they hide their gifts. And the argument of the Incredibles is that eagles should be eagles and don't let the crows keep you down, which sounds nice until you see how it works out in government. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.